Hello children, in this video we are going to learn about the Union Executive, that is the 12th lesson in the Civics Class 8. What is the Legislature? The Legislature make laws and the executive arm of the government enforces those laws. The President is the head of the executive. The Vice President, the Prime Minister, the Council of Ministers, and the officials and experts of the civil service assist and advise the President. Who is the President? The President is the constitutional head of our country. What are the eligibilities for the post of President? He or she must be a citizen of India, must be 35 years of age or more, should qualify to be a member of the Lok Sabha and not hold any office of profit under central, state or local governments and not be a member of the parliament or any state legislature. Describe the president election. An electoral college elects the President of India. The electoral college consists of the elected members of both houses of the parliament, the elected members of the state legislative assemblies including the national capital territory of Delhi and the union territory of Puducherry. Terms of the President. The President is elected for a term of 5 years. He or she can be re-elected after completing the term in office. Her or his term can end earlier in either of the two ways: that the President can resign from office by addressing the letter of resignation to the Vice President of India, or the President can be removed for violation of the Constitution through the process of impeachment. Salary and allowances of the President. The President draws the salary of 5 lakh per month. He or she is entitled to use the Rashtrapati Bhavan, which is the official residence of the President of India. The President is entitled to a monthly pension after the retirement. The powers of the President. First one, legislative power. These legislative powers of the President are: the President can summon and prorogue the houses of Parliament. He or she has the power to dissolve the Lok Sabha on the advice of the Council of Ministers. The President addresses a joint sitting of both houses of Parliament at the beginning of the first session after every general election to the Lok Sabha. He or she also addresses the two houses at the beginning of the first session of each year, and they can also address either house or a joint sitting of the houses of Parliament. A bill passed by the Parliament cannot become a law without the President's signature. The President appoints 2 Anglo-Indian members to the Lok Sabha and 12 members to the Rajya Sabha. The President is empowered to issue ordinances when the Parliament is not in session. Ordinances have the same authority and force as laws. However, an ordinance will expire after 6 weeks once both houses of the Parliament are back in session. Next power is executive power. The President is the head of the Union Executive. The President is the administrative head of the country. The administration of the country runs in her or his name. The President appoints the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is the leader of the party in majority in the Lok Sabha. The President appoints other ministers on the advice of the Prime Minister. It is the duty of the Prime Minister to keep the President informed of the decision of the Council of Ministers. All senior officials of the Union government are appointed by the President. They can also be removed by him. The President appoints judges of the Supreme Court and the High Courts. The President also controls the administration of the Union territories directly. Next one is judicial power. The judicial powers of the president are: the president has the power to reduce the sentence of the person convicted of an offence. The president is not answerable to any court for her actions unless faced with impeachment. Next one, financial power. The budget is laid before the parliament in the name of the president. Certain bills such as money bills can be introduced only with the president's permission. In case of some unforeseen expenditure, the president can grant an advance from the contingency fund of India. Next one, military power. The president is the supreme commander of the armed forces. He or she can declare war or conclude peace. Next one is diplomatic power. The president represents India at international forums and sends and receives ambassadors. International treaties and agreements are concluded in the president's name. Next one is emergency power. The president has certain powers to deal with the situations of emergency. For example, he or she can declare the state of emergency when the nation is threatened by external aggression or armed rebellion. There is a breakdown of government machinery in any state. In such a situation, the president takes control of the administration of the state. This is known as the president's rule. There is a threat to the financial stability of the country. The president is only a constitutional or a nominal head and exercises his or her power on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. The president's position is one of the authority and prestige. The Vice President. Who is the Vice President? The Vice President is elected by an electoral college consisting of members of both houses of Parliament. What are the eligibilities of the Vice President? The qualification for the office of the Vice President are same as those for the President, except that the candidate should be qualified to become a member of Rajya Sabha. Terms for the Vice President. The term of office of the Vice President is 5 years. It may end earlier either by resignation in writing addressed to the President or by removal. The Vice President may be removed by the resolution passed by the majority of the members of the Rajya Sabha and agreed to by the Lok Sabha by the majority. Functions of the Vice President. The Vice President is the ex officio chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. But if the President resigns, is removed or dies, then the Vice President acts as the President until the new President is elected. In case of temporary absence of the President, the Vice President discharges the duties of the President. At such time, he or she ceases the perform of duties of the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. The Prime Minister. The President is only the constitutional or nominal head. He or she acts as the advice of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is the real head. He or she is the leader of the majority party in the Lok Sabha. The Prime Minister is assisted by the Council of Ministers. What are the powers and functions of the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister assigns different ranks and portfolios to the ministers. The Prime Minister can transfer a minister from one department to another and if necessary may even ask the minister to resign. The Prime Minister is the chief advisor to the President. The President appoints and dismisses the ministers on the advice of the Prime Minister. All major appointments such as the judges of the Supreme Court and the High Courts are made on the advice of the Prime Minister. The President summons and prorogues the Lok Sabha on the advice of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister represents the country at international conferences such as those sponsored by the United Nations, the non-aligned summits wherein he or she puts forward the views of the entire nation. The Prime Minister is the chief spokesperson for the nation. He or she decides the Indians' internal and foreign policies. The Prime Minister keeps the national interest in mind while discussing issues at international forums. It is the duty of the Prime Minister to keep the President informed of the decisions taken by the Council of Ministers. It is the responsibility of the Prime Minister to see that the various ministries work in a coordinated manner so that the administration functions smoothly. The Prime Minister is responsible for the lapses and failures of the government. Council of Ministers. There is a Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. The Council of Ministers included the Cabinet Ministers, Minister of State and Deputy Ministers. The Cabinet Ministers hold the highest rank and take all the important decisions. Cabinet Ministers are in charge of different portfolios of the central government such as finance, defense and so on. Other ministers have to abide by the decisions made by the Cabinet. What are the eligibilities of the Council of Ministers? To be eligible for the appointment as a minister, a person must be a member of either the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. A person who is not a member of parliament can be appointed for 6 months, but he or she has to become the member of either house of parliament during this time. Usually, the Prime Minister and most of the other ministers are the members of the Lok Sabha. Working of the Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister is the head of the Council of Ministers. They work together as a team and hold collective responsibility. This means that all of them together are answerable to the Parliament for any decision taken by the Prime Minister. If a vote of no confidence is passed, all of them have to resign. Civil Services. The Cabinet formulates the policies and frames the guidelines. These policies are executed through the civil servants. The civil servants are government employees who are not connected to any political party. They are required to implement the policies of the government in an impartial manner. The civil servants are members of the Indian Administrative Service, that is IAS, Indian Foreign Service, that is IFS, Indian Police Service, that is IPS, and so on. Selection of these services is usually made by the Union Public Service Commission, that is UPSC, through the competitive examination and interviews. Successful candidates receive special training. They are then appointed to work at both central and state levels.